All right. What is going on, everyone? Hope everyone had an awesome weekend. We are now live. We're looking at futures currently right here up on the screen. We're going to be diving through at least some thoughts on the overall market, what that is setting up for this week. I know we have a lot going on with the inauguration, with things unrest and whatnot. So who knows? Could this be a very choppy week? I wouldn't be surprised. Personally, I thought we'd be entering, we open up potentially down, but it looks like as of right now, barring any potential news overnight, it looks like, the market wants to open up. At least futures are indicating about a half, a percent up, which is pretty interesting, based on how we finished the week last week. So that's that. The VIX is down about 1% here, futures wise. VIX is over 25. It's been below for a while, but it's been perking up as of late. So that's just kind of measuring volatility fear, and so we'll see how this goes. It's going to be an interesting week for sure. Looking at the overall market as of right now, Hall of Fame Resort, I loved it. I loved it a couple weeks back. We can talk about that in a second. I just loved it when it was bottomed out under 150. That's when I played it and I sold into the pop. There's still more there. I still like Hall of Fame. I said is a good recovery play for sure. I talked about it. I want to say a couple months back. I made a video saying why I liked it. And I think it's still worth it. It's just, once we get more kind of recovery stocks moving up, that will be one that benefits. I think whether people catch on now or later, I think it's matter of time. So overall market, look at SPY. This is the S&P 500, modeling the S&P 500, and we kind of came off. It looks like we came off a little bit of a cliff. Like we're starting to fall off a cliff here, and looking at that, you're like, okay, what does that look like? You go back to past days of some of these drops, and you're thinking, oh, well, maybe it starts to look like, what we saw, pre-crash in the past. Maybe. I don't think we're going to see nearly a drawdown to any degree, of that level, but could we see a drawdown down towards this 365? I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something that comes down, a couple points, 10, 15 points here on SPY. Wouldn't be surprised. That's not that big of a pullback, to be completely honest. So it would be a pretty healthy pullback. And could we see that in one day and then recover, Yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking right now. Let's see. Appreciate everybody who is new here in the chat. That's awesome. I really appreciate you guys for jumping in and making sure you subscribe, hit that thumbs up button. That's all I ask for these lives. The more likes, the more ideas, the more people in the chat. It's all good. It's all good. Okay. So that's at least my thoughts, I guess, currently on the market. Could we see a drawdown? We may be bouncing from here. So, if we bounce up, then, we'll take it as we see it. If there's any crazy news, though, that happens this week, that could bring things down, although it seems like doesn't matter what the news is. It seems like, to be honest, the market just goes up as of late. Any dip is getting bought up. So dip buys for now. The strategy's been working out pretty well. Buy the dips. That's all I can say. Let's see. AAME. Start pulling up some charts here. That AAME. Atlantic America. Okay, let's see. This actually looks pretty good. Prior spikes, so we like that. We like to see that. We got some attention. We got some volume, a couple days back, and it's coming back down. So I honestly like this range under 220, under 230. Honestly, is a pretty good spot. It's sitting just about that level. So if you want to take a shot at it, I think it's fine for these types of spikes. I don't know enough about it personally, but yeah, this looks pretty solid, especially if it does dip down into the low twos. Under 225 would be a decent buy range, I think, for sure. At least there's scalpability here. So at least you're talking about a move from like 210. You can almost guarantee, right? A move from 210, barring any bad news, a move from 210 to 225. And so that's one of those things that I was doing with LODE. LODE is a ticker that I actually have some. I do kind of think we see some more on this, but we got to break over this 130 and then 135 for a bigger move. But I was doing it back in here when LODE was just kind of in this range from like $1 up towards like 105, and it was like a 5% scalp, like it was there all the time. So I was kind of taking it until it eventually pushed up, and then I sold some of my shares and I actually bought back because I think it's holding up pretty well. So we'll see. If the market comes down, it'll be a decent dip buy, but we'll see. Let me go back and take a peek at some of the things in the chat. ACB or is ACB Personally, I'm not a huge. I mean, ultimately, right? Fundamentally, I'm not a huge fan of the company by that respect. But the sector's hot, so at the end of the day, right? It didn't get the type of move I thought we maybe be able to see based on Tilray. So I'm looking at like Tilray, right, blowing up. But that's because Tilray had that merger, right, with essentially becoming like the largest cannabis company, right? So I'm not surprised why Tilray blew up to the degree it did. But ACB, as long as the sector stays hot, Tilray stays hot. ACB is going to model Tilray, CGC, a lot of those stocks. So if that pulls back, then yeah, I would see ACB pulling back. Technically speaking, it kind of broke out of some of these downtrends. I was looking for it to make a shot to 15. Didn't actually get there. So I think that to a degree, some of the fundamentals behind the company driving it held some investors back. And so I think that Tilray, because of the merger, people got more excited. And then, you have SNDL, SNDL with the shelf offering. They filed for a shelf offering, a $400 million shelf offering on Friday afternoon. So we look at the 4-hour chart. It's going to show us what happened in the after-hour session on Friday. SNDL is going to come down come Monday, or at least maybe it doesn't. It's around 65. It came down to 60 cents. If the market goes up, we'll see. But there's a little bit of fear. I think there's a little bit of fear, with SNDL. Now they have the shelf. They can pull from that shelf and drop an offering pretty much at any time. So that's the issue with SNDL. If it drops below 60, if it can come down to the mid-40s, that's a decent spot to pick something up, ideally post-offering. So if they do the offering, I hope SNDL just does the offering and get that over with, because then I think a lot of people would feel more comfortable getting back in, because that was always kind of one of those dark clouds hovering over SNDL was, are they going to do an offering? They need to get the stock price over $1 by June. So it looks like likely now we're going to see an offering. The stock price is going to come down. Then they're going to do a reverse stock split. And then the stock price, that's how they'll get it up over $1 to regain compliance. So that's kind of how I'm thinking. Tom or Thomas, either one. I go by either one. I know I have people who call me both. It doesn't matter to me. Anyway is fine. I am still an AMBO. The reason why is because it's a Chinese online education play. The chart, I'm playing AMBO off the chart. That's kind of how I'm playing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm literally just watching AMBO based on this trend line. Cracks the trend line, I'm going to be out. If it comes back down, I will add more. So I have an average right around 225. I averaged up a little bit on it because I had an average lower. I was kind of scalping it a little bit, but this chart has that set up. It's in a sector. It's a super low float. It's like a 2 million float. So it's not going to take much for this guy to move. That's why I have my order set, or some order set, just in case we get a quick pop or something happens in pre-market. So I like this. This is one of my larger positions as of right now, I think. Maybe not larger. It's one of my large-ish positions. OPTT, as long as OPTT, for example, holds this trend line that I have roughly, that'll be one of my nice positions as well. I like OPTT. Outside of that, if I can go back, let me go to my position list actually really quick. ATNF under 3. Where is ATNF? ATNF, this guy under 3, I like. So if this thing can hold up or can drop back below 3, I want to get a lot more. I wish I had. I wanted to get more, but I didn't buy enough at the time. So I like it under 3. Ideally, I want to see a breakout over 350 towards 4. That's what I want to ideally kind of see. Thanks for the video you made earlier. Yeah, the video that I made earlier, I hope, a lot of you guys, the idea behind it was I just want people to make sure, right, that they're taking a step to think about what they're doing, right, before they just buy something randomly. Because a lot of times, right, and I'll explain, there's one, OBSV. I didn't want to make a video about like a specific pump. This stock, they had price target upgrades. I see what they got going on. I was doing some due diligence behind them as well, and they made it onto my list last week, right? It just so happens I didn't take the position until I didn't take a position. I actually day traded it, but that's beside the point. I'm swing trade focused, so I want to be buying the stock down here. I'm not buying the stock up here. If I do buy the stock when it's up like that, it's because I see the volume, the momentum's there. I see reason to believe it's going to continue to go up, and I'm playing it for a day trade, and I understand that that's my risk, right? I'm not risking, massive size on that, right? So OBSV was one that I saw some videos, and they got a lot of views too on some of the videos about OBSV. And I timed it up from, now I'm not sure exactly when the price target upgrades hit and stuff, but I timed it up from when I saw the videos dropped to when the stock went up. That's a legitimate, that's a legitimate thing. And so if somebody's watching that video after the fact, they say, hey, 900, this stock can go 1,000%, 2,000%. That's cool, right? Could it go? Yes, it totally could, right? It totally could go to $20. There's some price targets of like 15, 20, 22, something like that. But you're buying the stock up here. How much downside? This stock could come down $2 full. And so if you're buying with money that you can't afford to lose and you're not willing to be able to average down and play it for the long term, and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes of the company and you can't kind of justify things, it's going to be much more likely that you're going to end up selling this stock for a loss only to see the stock go back up the next day. And so I don't want people to build those types of bad habits, right? Let the stock settle down, let it kind of chill out, and it will. You'll have the opportunity. For example, BNGO, right? You had your opportunity. I was warning people back when I saw BNGO running up over 7. I was like, hey, careful on this one because it's already up from sub 50 cents, to over $7 in like a couple days. Chill out. It's going to come down. They did an offering. There was your dip buy. The stock came down sub $4. There are people who were to grab it sub 4. Now, guess what? You bought the stock sub 4 because you had a little bit of patience and you didn't FOMO on the 7. You've done your due diligence. You had some time to do a little digging yourself. Hey, I really think that this genomic stuff is big. Okay, awesome. You read some articles. You get some second opinions. You look into the company a little bit. Nothing crazy. Now you're up 100% off of that buy. That's how I want to make sure people are seeing things a little bit, right? Because, it's easy to get FOMO'd in and get caught up in that stuff. So that's why I wanted to make that video. And also, the way that I do it personally, especially for those, who are new, I don't do any I don't like this stuff. Like BNGO, could it go to 20, 30, 100? I don't care. Sure. I don't play that right now. Everyone has their own strategy, their own style that works for them. That's just not how I personally find it to work for me, right? This becomes more of an investment. This becomes more of a fundamental play than a technical or than a trade. I'm focused more on the trade and not necessarily the long-term play. I'll play bigger companies for the long term that are a little bit less volatile. That's how I see the long term. But the short term, I trade the penny stocks. I trade kind of these scammy or whatever you want to call them companies because I see the opportunities and I can predict how they're going to play out more often than not based on technicals and based off some of the experience that I've been building right over the past 17 months of doing it, right? So that's what I've been doing. Ovid. Yeah, Ovid was the one that I like. It's on my list now for this coming week. So Ovid, let's pull it up. So this guy, especially because it dipped, it was a decent dip on Friday. But look at this thing. So it's sitting here. I don't want to really see it go below 225, although I would probably give it down to like a $2 support. Why $2? Even though that we don't have chart history there, at least recently. Because $2 is like a natural area of support and resistance, just a whole number, a whole dollar level. But this is an example, right? I looked a little bit into them. They have more in the pipeline. I believe it was just negative news, right? They had bad news or bad data that sent it down. There's more. They have more things going on in the background. So all it takes on a stock like this, for example, it takes a press release from the company saying, hey, we got, and they don't want the stock to sit. This looks ugly. This doesn't look good for them, right? So they're going to try to do whatever they can to get more attention, to get more interest back on their stock, to get more investors, right? Because they want that, right? Obviously, they want that. So it doesn't take much. I've seen it happen more often than not. They drop a press release or the stock starts grinding its way up as people realize, hey, it's not the end of the world. They have more stuff going on in the background as well than just this one failed or this one bad piece of data, right? Boom, the stock can make a recovery in this gap. So over this 330 or so, let me draw a line in right here. Over this 330 right in here, this thing can make a pretty big run. There's the gap to fill technically up to like 650. I wouldn't say it might go that high, but you get into some of this clean area where chart-wise, there's not much resistance in here. So this thing could have some free reign. So that's why I like these stocks down here. Personally, that's why this is a perfect example of one that I'm looking at this week. So if the market's down, we have a red day, boom, that's the time. Those are the days that I'm going on a little shopping spree. I'm looking for stocks like this to take those entries. That's at least that's my take. Let's take a look at DPW. they had like an Amazon launch, I believe, right, for one of their partners' products or something like that, right? DPW, so it popped up. I was looking for it. Well, we had this area right here, this 550-ish, and I want to see it hold. So if it can hold up around here, maybe, but if not, it has some solid support down around, I would say 360, like worst case scenario, but this 50 SMA, this blue line is probably going to be support. So this 50 SMA is coming up pretty quick as, the stock price, it's going off the past 50 days, and that's pulling the moving average. That's what this 50 SMA is. And when I say 50 SMA, the 50 period simple moving average on the daily chart, that's what I look at. These blue lines, I don't mess, to be honest, too much with this stuff on any short-term scales. I look at these lines as support, resistance on a longer term on the daily chart. And then intraday, I literally just look at my own lines. Hey, this area, it's not breaking above or it's not breaking below. That support, just keep it as simple as possible. That's how I see it. You can get caught up, and there's a lot of great indicators. It's up to you to kind of figure out what works best for you, what you like the most. But putting in higher lows, so I still like it. I think maybe it finds some support at some of these highs, which is up like 475 or so. If not, maybe it holds $5. $5 is a pretty strong support level, resistance and support with a lot of penny stocks that are below 5. So that's why I like where it's kind of sitting. So it may have some room down. Ideally, under 5 would be a better entry if DPW can come down. Wouldn't want to hold this thing, below this 350-ish. So that's my take on it for right now. I do like this setup, the rough setup, where you have the spike, right? You have this kind of U-shaped pattern, but now obviously bottomed out here in the 3, mid upper 3s. And now we're putting in higher lows, and we're kind of building that U-shape back on up. Ideally, right? You're going to have some choppiness in between, but ideally with those lows building as higher lows, build that U-shape back on up for a potential run to crack and break out over these highs. That's the type of pattern that I like to see. Personally, I'm not in DPW as of right now. I played it for right here when it broke out of this. We go back and look at this descending kind of triangle, I guess. So, we had support in the low ones, and it had this kind of, these highs that connected to a bunch of these highs roughly, and it broke out. And then they, of course, timed that with awesome news, and boom, it popped. So, do you have advice for this? Keep their PC workflow. So what I do, at least, is personally, right, everyone's, I guess, different in terms of what they want to do. But so what I have is I don't know if you guys can see the tabs, but I have a couple tabs, and I keep like the futures tab. I keep my BAM SEC, look at SEC filings. I keep like Seeking Alpha just for news, quickly to have for news. And then FinViz up, and then I have like Twitter or whatever I want to look at for other stuff. If I need to find, hey, like if I got to look on Twitter to see if there's any news specifically about a stock, I can do that as well. That's not showing up as a press release. I keep things pretty straightforward like that. I'm not worried about that too much. Those are like the main tabs and stuff that I use. And then of course I have a trading journal. I have a video also on the channel. I don't think like it gets any views, but I'm sure you can type on my channel on the search bar, trading journal, and it should show up. It's kind of how I build out my trading journal so that I'm logging these things, because at the end of the day, it's awesome, right? You're doing this stuff, you're seeing things happen, but if you can build a massive log, with a lot of stocks, you'll see the same patterns repeat over and over and over. Or if you realize, like, for example, you go through sector rotation. So we have the EVs, we have now the cannabis, we have like certain, biotech. We got all these different things, especially, when certain things are happening right in the news. If we have kind of like the cybersecurity scare, right, you have a lot of stocks that relate to those sectors. So I recommend on your platform building out watch lists. So like, for example, I go to my watch list. I have a bunch of just watch lists right here, and I can come in here and quickly say, okay, green energy, boom, I have like, 15 green energy stocks. Bitcoin stocks, boom, I have a list. EVs, boom, I have a list. Shipper stocks, boom. Chinese low float stocks, I got a list. On the education, boom. So like, I have lists all like that. That's the best way, I think, to organize it in terms of building out watch lists for the sectors. And always, just kind of refining those things as time goes on. I think it's super helpful. It's been one of the biggest things. VXX. So watch VXX. So as of right now, right, this is going to essentially go up if the market comes down, or we see some more volatility and you see some more fear, right, enter the market, right? That's what VXX. So the market technically could go up, and VXX could also go up, but generally it's kind of like the opposite of the market, generally. So it's coming down here, and I started my position down here in the 16s. I added to that on Friday, and I will actually add one more contract to my position a VXX $17, I think it's February 12th calls, which puts us out to like right in here. So, it gives us about like 4 weeks or so. The reason why is just to kind of hedge or give myself something kind of to the downside to look at if the market pulls back based on, what we're looking at right now. I mean, we're very overextended. Can we continue to go up? Yes. Money being pumped in, the stimulus package coming. Yeah, I can certainly see it. But at the end of the day, I'm still kind of hedging that downside risk because I think it could happen. And traditionally speaking as well, I think end of January, early February is like also one of the weaker periods, just historically speaking, in the markets in general. And this is just talking about the overall S&P, the Dow, the NASDAQ. I think this period is like one of the more weaker periods in general, whereas like the end of December, your Santa Claus rally, that's usually a very strong period. So we're entering a weaker period, so I would not be surprised if we get a pullback. I'm not saying, hey, let's look at SPY. I'm not saying SPY's going down to this trend line. No. I'm not saying SPY's going to 330. I'm saying if SPY goes down to like 370, 365, yeah, that's a realistic pullback, and then we can make a move back up from there and maybe crack up to 400. I want to see, obviously 400 I think is well within reach in the next couple months. So, that's that. Let's see, which platform? I'm sorry if I miss questions. I'm sorry. I'm trying to go through as many as I can, obviously. Let's see, scrolling on down. Platform, I'm using Webull. There's a link down below if you want to check it out as well. Get an awesome sign-up bonus. That's another one of those things too. I use the platform. A lot of people who promote it don't even use it. They use Robinhood or whatever they want to use, but TD Ameritrade. I use Webull all the time. I will not stop using it unless another platform had that 4 a.m. trading hours and was able to one-up it on other fronts. Opinion on FCEL. Appreciate the donation. Let's take a peek. I think this one could be decent. So, FCEL hit $20. That's nuts because I played FCEL back in here, right? And I rode this thing up to like 13, something like that, up in here. Then it pulled back down to like 10. So, okay, that would have been a decent dip buy. And then it broke out of this little downtrend. So FCEL, what is it doing? It's putting in continuous downtrend breaks. So the way that I do this is it's rough. It's an art. It's not an exact science. And the way that you also got to think about it is that every person is essentially their own artist in how they trade, whether it's day trades, swing trades, and inside of the day trades and swing trades, each person is going to have their own indicators that they like, or their own kind of indicators on whatever time frame versus support, how they draw their support, resistance. Everyone's going to find what works for them. But for me, the way I see trends is if I can connect 2 or more candles or if I can connect 2 or more points, I can start to see a trend. And so what I roughly saw was some of these downtrends on FCEL. Ultimately, we had an uptrend. Ultimately, the stock is putting in higher lows longer term in a very hot sector. But ultimately, right, that's what it's been doing. And now we pull back. So what could we roughly do? Now, we might need to get a little bit more history on this guy. But roughly, we can put in somewhat of a downtrend, just like that for now. We can, of course, come back and edit that line, fix that line, adjust it. But right here, this area right here, wouldn't be surprised if we come back to some of these highs, which lines up. Let me draw this in right here. So see this candle right here, this little low, and see some of these highs. This lines up pretty much in the same spot, which puts us right around this 13 or $14. So I wouldn't be surprised if FCEL comes down towards 14-ish and bounces off of that point. Although if the market goes green, because the past 2 days have been red, right? I think, or the past, at least Friday was pretty red. So if the market goes green, these are growth stocks in sectors that are super hot. So when the market goes green, let's say 0.5% or 1%, a lot of these types of stocks that have been outperforming the market by far, they'll outperform and they'll push up, 2, 3, 4, 5+% depending upon the sector, if there's news and whatnot. And on the red days, they'll come down. Like for example, FCEL came down 10% on Friday. The red days, they're going to come down hard, but the green days, they're going to bounce back even stronger many times. It's getting up there, but I do see that $14 being, an area that I kind of like. If it does come down, that's a decent nip buy. And then obviously, breaking back over 20 would be the next, leg up to the upside. I could make a video on organization. That would be pretty important. What's up, Mike? Appreciate you guys for jumping in. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button. I appreciate all of you who do so. That's awesome. Let's see, earnings for FSO earnings on Thursday. So that's interesting. So a lot of that stuff, personally, I wouldn't, it's the same type of thing. We play a lot of the times, you play the run up instead of the actual event, right? Holding through earnings, holding through, data. If you know, hey, there's data coming out on this day. Many times you don't know for certain stocks, but if you know, hey, this is the date they got data, many times, I'd be a little bit careful, cautious holding through that. If you're going to do it, make sure you have your risk management in place, cut your position, trim something off, hold what you're willing to lose. Love Webull, I have TD. Yeah, so I used to be trading on TD, and then I had Webull on the side for my swing account, and then I just kind of eventually was like, screw TD, I'm going here. TD I'll use now for OTC. That's what I'll use. I mean, TD's fine, and nothing wrong with it. But for what I trade, I love being able to take profits or have my order set and wake up on like a, whatever morning at 6 a.m. knowing that, most platforms are still not open yet. Usually 7 a.m. Eastern, things like TD open at 7 a.m. or a lot of platforms open at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m. Eastern, right? Knowing I can wake up, I can be able to put in a trade if I need to sell for whatever reason or buy. Most likely it's selling in the pre-market. Usually things are a little bit inflated. And that's also one more little kind of tidbit too. If you wake up and, we know, hey, SPY's red. So you go to look at the futures, right? You're looking at the overall market, doesn't look good. You're looking at SPY, you're looking at everything looks red and gross. And you're in a bunch of positions that, either you kind of don't like anymore, you'd rather buy dips or you want to average down or whatever. It's not a bad idea to take something off to trim them in the pre-market hours, because many times that's when they'll be at their highest point. The market opens, it's like a flush. Everything just flushes out. You get a lot of good dips when that happens. So maybe that's one of those things where it's like you're able to use like a platform like Webull or any other platform that you can sell in the pre-market hours. Take some profits if you have the ability to do so, or cut something off and then look to rebuy on super red days if that does happen. Rebuy those things, at like 10 a.m. Eastern, right? Because usually you get a decent dip and then they can recover throughout the rest of the day, and so you can get a better average. Let's see. Scroll back through. Oh, CCIV. CCIV, the stuff I've been seeing. Okay, so this is Churchill Capital. This is the rumor, right? Is that they're merging with Lucid Motors, which is actually like a legit EV player, like a legit competitor to Tesla potentially, right? People are saying. I haven't done enough personally due diligence myself into Lucid, but this is a play where it's super speculative, and I think I'm not gonna come on here and trash anything, but I think it's hilarious. I bought some and I sold some for like a scalp on last week, but this was nuts. So they're gonna see a lot of volatility in this stock like this. Let's go back to the 1 hour chart to see the volatility here. This thing was was also halting up and down, I believe, on Friday too. Which, if a stock moves over a certain percentage in a short period of time, it'll halt. Which means it'll be 5 to 10 minutes that you can't trade it. So many times people get caught in the halts and they're like, what just happened? That's kind of what happened. This thing, the speculation is that they're going to be, they're going to merge with Lucid Motors, going the SPAC route, and Lucid wants to go public, I believe, from what I've been seeing. And their deliveries of their electric vehicles are coming out, I believe, in April or something like that, in the spring, I believe. They're starting in the spring. So to get public, the fastest route would probably be a SPAC. And so there's some ties here between some people on the board of CCIV and Lucid. So there's ties there. There's reason to believe that they may do this. Although no one inside is going to be telling you, hey, we are going to do, there's no hints being really given outside of what everyone could kind of piece together. Crazy stock here until we get, if there is news that they are merging with Lucid Motors, this stock will go $30, $40, potentially $50 very quick. There's a lot of hype here. I would not be surprised, but understand if that doesn't happen, this can get cut in half. So if it can go back down towards 10 very quickly if that rumor is essentially saying, hey, nope, that's not happening. Wouldn't be surprised. So this is one where you can take advantage of scalps. See how there's these crazy overreactions, these crazy dips. A lot of that could be manipulation. We see it with a lot of SPACs. It's manipulation to get bigger money in lower. Also, I believe I saw some insider buying from CCIV as well. They were doing some insider buying. So what does that mean? Do they know something's coming? I don't know. That's kind of what's been going on here with CCIV. So I like these dips. If you get a crazy wick down where the thing is all of a sudden down 5-10% intraday, hammer that, buy that thing and sell it intraday. You can make a couple percent pretty quickly. That's usually a decent idea to play off the fear, because you're getting a lot of fear. When there's a lot of people in the stock that are just kind of hoping and hyping, and the stock starts plummeting down, they just cut themselves for a loss, or they just take profits and they're like, I gotta, and it's a panic sell central. Everybody in the, yeah, exactly. And that's, I haven't really messed with it, to be honest. If they do end up merging with Lucid, I wouldn't be opposed to grabbing some for sure, for maybe like a longer term swing. I think that could be a decent play. If it does come down, like for example, I was kind of hoping, like, I don't want to hope for stocks to come down. I don't want people to lose money, but I was kind of hoping we would wake up with the market kind of gapping down. Maybe it's down 1%, futures are down, so that a lot of stocks, we get some panic sell in the morning, right? And then you can kind of pick up some positions. Like for example, if CCIV, all of a sudden you get some panic sellers, the thing comes down to like $16. Yeah, the risk reward there is I'm risking a couple dollars to the downside if this merger doesn't happen. But I'm also, if this does happen, that's a massive 100% easy if this happens. So that's kind of how I see it. BNGO pre-market. Let's see. Let's take a peek at BNGO, how it's been doing in the pre-market hours. BNGO is getting up there. I think $10 is the next area. Buy next day for 10. I think BNGO at the current pace is probably going to go. It's probably going to go 10 plus very, very soon. Would not be surprised. It popped to 950. Let's see where we open up tomorrow. Let's see if this thing kind of opens up, closer to 9 or 10. If you wake up and the thing's already at 950 or 10, I don't know. For me, it's tough to buy that. It'd be tough to buy that. So as close to you can get, under, I think 8 is a good spot personally. If you can get it down towards 8, that could be a decent, understand you have a lot more downside risk obviously than 2 weeks ago, but still it's relatively better. JKS, let's see. I'll pull up JKS. Go solar. This is actually a lot of these. This is solid. I don't know enough about the fundamentals behind it though. That's my only thing. So if I take a peek, we don't have a perfect, this isn't a perfect support line, but it's roughly, okay, we kind of have to discount this to a degree. How much does that make this trend line, valid? Maybe it's not a valid trend line, but for right now, we're at support. So this could be a good balance opportunity for JKS, but it's also setting up like potential, like a really good play. Like here's why I kind of like this. What we can do, let me get rid of this guy. We kind of have roughly, right, we have a big move up, then it's just a consolidation. So we're in this range from this 90 down towards like 50. It's a big range, but we're in this consolidation period, right? And in here, right, either you're going to get a breakout down or you're going to get a breakout to the upside, right? I looks like with the sector, I like this for a breakout to the upside in the coming days and weeks. That's at least my plan, at least my thoughts on that. APRE, yes. Am I in this guy? Am I in this? Yeah, I actually am in it. I love this one. APRE, I'm in this one. I want to buy more depending upon the week. I bought this one on Friday, so that's at least my, I bought this on Friday, so I'm waiting on this one. But again, massive gap. We got room. We got tons of room. Now, do I think it's going to go to $20? No. But could it go from 5 to 10 and you make 100%? Yeah. So that's where, $10 puts you right here. Chart-wise, that's a lot more realistic than 25. So that's why you still have, even if it goes to 6, 7, 8, that's a solid gain. So I like this one. I think there's also more due diligence behind that as well. So if you have a chance to look into APRE, look a little bit deeper into what they have going on. I think this you'll find something that you could be, could be worth a decent trade down around 5. If you can get it under 5, that could be a decent spot. Let me see. RELL. Let's pull this guy up. Let me see. Richardson Electric, right? Let's see. Okay, this guy looks like it popped up, so it hit 690. on Thursday. Then it came back down. So it's got some support here, sub 6, like in this $5.50 to $6 range, this consolidation area. But it's looking like it wants to make a move up. So we have that 690 resistance for right now. For whatever reason, 690 was the number. I don't know enough about it, though, personally. Electronics, okay. Engineering, power grid, microwave tubes. Okay, so this is could be a fairly hot sector, right? And this stuff's been hot. It recovered. Its only thing is it's recovered back to its pre-pandemic prices, at least back in this time last year. So now pushing up, I think it has room towards 7, potentially 750 or so, up towards some of these highs. So I kind of like that. APRE goes to 11. I mean, I'm for it. I'm for that. Let's see. Opinion on Idecs. People always ask about Idecs. It's a pretty popular stock for whatever reason. But here's my thoughts on Idecs. Hit this 475. That's like my current resistance for right now that I have in here. We have a $4 resistance as well based on, we go back to here. Like this high right here is around 4. This is like right around 390. So $4 is your current resistance in the meantime. But it is putting in higher lows, right? So we have a low down here towards this 175, then we have a higher low towards 190, and then a higher low here towards this 270. So as long as it keeps putting in higher lows, it's still looking decent. Ideally, the better spot to buy would be if it comes down closer to the 50 SMA. This blue line on the daily chart, I would say if it comes down maybe towards this 270, could be a decent dip. Could be a decent dip buy. That's how, at least I'm not in Idecs, but that's personally how I kind of see it. Oh, a lot of comments. I got to go back through here. GSAH merger with Coinbase. Okay, if that's true, that could be pretty big, right? Because Coinbase is hot, Bitcoin, that stuff's hot. This could be big. If that's the merger, I mean, the play with some of these rumor things is it's up to you to determine. I think a lot of people, it's up to you to determine your risk tolerance on that. Again, you're buying a SPAC here that's under $12. To me, that's a pretty good buy for a lot of SPACs, depending upon who the merger is going to be with, right? Depending if Coinbase is a player, I think at least on hype, this thing could go, pretty high, especially if Bitcoin stays up. If Bitcoin starts plummeting down, then maybe you lose a little bit of that hype factor. Which we should probably talk about Bitcoin, by the way, because I actually haven't seen what it's been doing. Also, for those asking about Trading Journal, there should be a video on my channel already from a little bit. I can make an updated one, but there should be one about Trading Journal. Just type in Trading Journal in the search on my channel page, and you should be able to find that. CTRM is one that I personally don't know what people see in CTRM. I'm sorry. If someone sees something more, please let me know, but I don't know. I've traded CTRM, many times in the past. It's an offering machine. The second they have a chance, the second they're going to do an offering. So it's like, I don't see the appeal, especially when CTRM is up. If you can get it on a dip or get it post offering, that's a better time, your better risk to buy. I mean, up here, CTRM could come back down to, let's see, it could come back down towards 20 cents and no one would bat an eye. Who cares? Because that's just what the stock does. For CTRM to me, even making a shot to 50 cents would be ridiculous, in my opinion. I don't like it. I'm not going to play it up here. If you're going to play it, it's a technical play, bouncing off the 50 SMA, which is down towards 18.50 right now. Maybe that comes up towards 20 cents, but for me, it's just not, it's a no-go. I made a video on the second channel too recently, talking about it. So if you want to go check it out, there should be a link in the description to check out the second channel. On that one, I make more just updated stock videos, technical analysis, what's going on between a specific stock or something like that. So I keep it kind of simple to the point, less personal, right? I keep it just screen recording, things like that. Let me go back. We'll look at SNDL. Let me scroll down. a little bit. Appreciate the donation. GNRS. Let's pick that guy up. I like a lot of these cannabis stocks. Here's my at least thoughts on cannabis stocks for right now. If the market comes down or we see a pullback, that's a decent dip buy, because what are we going to see next? What's the next catalyst for a lot of cannabis companies? US, Canadian, whatever you want to play. I think they're all in play. We're going to eventually see legislation, right? Eventually there's going to be a bill that's going to go into Congress, and they're going to have to pass it or not. But it looks like, based on how things are working, the House Democratic, the Senate, and then the president, all Democratic, controlled. It's almost like almost a no-brainer that this probably will get passed, right? So that's the next catalyst here. So for anything cannabis related, any big dips, I think are solid dip buys. Obviously, if you're playing a stock that's already up massively, you're running a higher risk, right? But for a SPAC play like this, your downside is $10. You're sitting here at sub 11. I think that's a beautiful, spot to be buying. And on top of that, right, SNDL, let's pull up SNDL. Not a big fan right now, because what SNDL did, let's go to the 4 hour. What did they do? Well, they just filed for a shelf offering, a $400 million shelf offering, that now all they got to do is go to the shelf and pull it off and say, hey, that's an offering. That's what it is. They have a shelf offering on file. And so now at any point, it makes it very easy for them to say, hey, we're going to do an offering. Boom. Let's dilute shares. Let's offer more shares. Boom. That's how they can do it. So you got to file for those things ahead of time. And so this is sitting here at 65 cents. It closed at after hours. It closed at 71 at the end of the day, but it fell to 65 after hours, and 60 is holding up as solid support for right now. So, I would anticipate SNDL does the offering relatively soon, and then eventually does a reverse stock split soon after that. That's what I think SNDL is going to do. We'll see if that plays out that way. Let's see. Who still looks good? Yeah, I'm in HUSA actually for some of these oil plays. SGBX. So SGBX I talked about, I believe in my, so I made a video, what was it? It was about maybe 5 penny stocks to buy and hold for 2021. And I don't personally like doing too many of those videos, because like I say, for those who watch, 95% of these penny stocks that I trade, these are not good companies. They're not going to be around. They're not going to make it to, 5, 10, 15 bucks. They're not going to get there. They just won't. They're going to do the same cycle, reverse stock split, offerings, and the same cycle repeats, right? And just keeps coming down, 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 down. We'll do a reverse stock split. Okay, now the price is back up at $3. Oh, and then it just comes back down. And you get your spikes, and we play the spikes. That's what we love to do, but ultimately long term. But SGBX has been just a solid grinder. And I was kind of worried when I talked about it, because it was already up a decent amount, but I still liked it at the time. No debt, cash. And it's pushing. So I liked SGBX. For those who are in, you're looking good. $10. We're looking at, I think $10 will be your next shot for SGBX, personally. So we'll see what happens. Let me scroll down and see if I missed. What else did I miss? Gevo. I think people were talking about how there was someone on Biden's board, right? Was like the CEO or something like that. This could get a good pop into next week. I would not be surprised. Let's look at the 4 hour chart really quick. Yeah, I could see this thing making a run. Again, we have what we kind of can see, rough, kind of draw a little downtrend. It's trying to break above that downtrend, so it looks pretty good for a breakout. I like that. GHIV. GHIV I like it. I like GHIV a lot. I think it's a matter of time before the merger's this week. I have some. I only have 100, but I would love to get more if it dips significantly below my average. But see, the thing with GHIV is that I missed this guy down in here, right? So if you get the FOMO, if you miss a SPAC that you like or whatever, that you miss it down sub 12 or sub $11, just wait for the dips. You're going to get them, and we've had them. So we had a dip down here to 1160. We had a dip down on Friday because it was a red day. These SPACs take hits. It had a dip down to 12. So I was able to, I had an average a little bit higher in the 12, but I was able to grab a little more. And if we can get a better, I'll look to buy a little bit more of that too, if it does dip further. Merger this week, so we're probably going to see some volatility. Merger's Wednesday, I believe, right? So we're going to see some volatility into that one for sure. So we'll see. UAVS, one of those drone companies. It's at 10. That's crazy. UAVS has been pushing up. I'm surprised. This is a stock that I watched for months when it was back in here, sub $3, and I was like, yeah, just this thing, whatever. But it had these downtrend breaks, so it had these kind of wedges that it formed and broke out to the upside. So it's been pretty good. It's been pushing up. Yeah, and we can roughly draw if we can potentially. Let's see if we can draw something in here. A little trend. Let's see. Roughly, it's rough trend line that we kind of have drawn in right now. comes down towards that level, decent buy, at least for now. Eventually it's going to probably crack the trend, but if you see the value here long term, it's potentially, drones, I don't know, potentially a long-term play. I haven't done enough due diligence into it. But BNGO, I think it's going to go 10. Well, let's take a look at BNGO. I think it's going to go 10 plus this week, potentially. Depends if the market's down, and maybe it's not. But it hit 950 last week. I would not be surprised to see 10 plus. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I saw some stuff on this weekend about, why maybe there's some more DD behind it. I mean, maybe it goes to 10. I'm not personally going to play it. I'm just kind of watching on the sidelines here on this bad boy. Here's HUSA. Yeah, I've been messing around with this one for the past couple of weeks. If it comes down towards the 50 SMA, down towards this 167 area, that's like a loading zone. I mean, if it drops like 10 more cents, it's an absolute loading zone for HUSA. The only thing you got to watch for this is that you got to kind of watch oil. So if oil's headed down, then be careful with some of these oil plays. But when they go, they go. So have your orders set in place so I kind of have a bunch ready to go. And I'm looking to buy some more this week potentially. We'll see. Let's go scrolling down. NAK. Actually, I believe I was in. I rode this first one and I missed the reload zone for the bigger move. So unfortunately, I could have made a lot more, but I made some money on this one. I had an average in the low 30s, 32-ish, and popped to 48. I mean, I took my profits there, and then eventually it came back down. Missed the reload. I wanted to come down to like sub 35. That's where I wanted to buy it, and it never did. It got to 36.5, and then it went from there. But it's at the 50 SMA, so this is an interesting. It could be a bounce point for it. So it's at the 50 SMA. If NAK drops below, also 50 cents is right here. If it drops below 50 cents, maybe it comes back down more. Let's see if 50 cents holds on NAK for a bigger move back up. Let me see. Sorry. IIV. I3 verticals. Oh, that's right at that 50 SMA. If you got nothing to look at, that's a decent spot. So here, consolidation right in here, this 29-ish area. We had this area right here, prior resistance, now support. So this is a little range, actually. Let's draw in a little range, a little buy range, I think. If it can hold up in this range, here's your rough buy range in this consolidation. So I like that spot. I don't know enough about the company, but technically speaking, it's in a good range. I don't want to see if it starts dropping below 28, then maybe 28.50. Then ideally maybe that's a potential. Unless you have reason to believe it's a long-term play and you want to play long-term, then buy the dips. But if it's going to drop below there, technically speaking, for a trade, maybe it's starting to get a little bit weak. So maybe down towards 27 or so could hold up. That's what I would see. GOEV. Canoe. This is Canoe. I forgot. Canoe was a dirty dip down in here. Man, so you could have gotten 12. You could have gotten 12 like 2 weeks ago. That's nuts. I like Canoe. I've liked it actually for a little bit too. I missed the reload on Canoe. I missed this reload back here. But actually, no, did it have a spike? Yeah, it kind of popped a little bit up here, and then it fell back. So I missed this period, which there was a lot of other SPACs at the time, but I was also, playing. So you're not going to be able to catch them all, right? So let's see. I mean, Canoe, it's got some. These are areas right here. It's this 16. Some of these wicks down right here. The 16, the 17, the 16 area, 1650. I would like to see that hold. If it can't, maybe it comes down toward the 50 SMA, which is going to be pushing up towards 15. So if it can get down towards like the 1650, that could be a decent dip buy, or sub that down to the 50 SMA could be a decent dip, in my personal opinion. ACB, personally, if the cannabis sector pulls back, ACB, like I like it, but it's also not my top pick in terms of like fundamentals for the sector. So if I had to pick one, I like CGC and Tilray. Tilray is already too overextended for me, so I'm not really anymore. But Cgc Canopy Growth. Let's pull this guy up. I like this one for a move to 50. I'm targeting 50 at some point this year, so I have a decent chunk in my long-term swing account, and I'm riding this bad boy up. So I want to see it make a shot up to some of these, this area right back up here into the 48 to 52. So I'm looking for this thing to make a move up here. It's going to stair step probably. we'll see. But I think the next catalyst for a lot of those stocks is going to be official legislation being passed, right? OPTT, so I'm sorry if I'm missing a bunch of stuff. Do my best to look through the comments. OPTT, here it is. I mean, here's what I like. Here's your uptrend, beautiful uptrend, and it's sitting right here. And so I'm looking for a move up. Ideally, I don't want to see OPTT drop below like 275, 270. If it wicks there and recovers, fine. But if it holds below that level, I'll probably cut it. But I mean, I have a pretty decent risk reward. I have an average under 3 for now. So it's a pretty good spot in my opinion. Could this play eventually? If it stops me out, could it go? Yeah. But, I'm going to keep to at least to my plan, my rules. There's other plays. There's always another play. NNDM. We'll talk about CCIV in a second. NNDM. I like NNDM if they do an offering. Maybe that's a better time to buy, just because they've been doing offerings like all the time, and it's always a decent dip buy. So NNDM, I think it's still putting in higher lows, it's looking solid. The more I look at NNDM, I mean, the more I was kind of just dumb to sell some of mine, because I was up over 100%, and I said, you know what, I'm going to take my profits here in my long-term swing just to move to something else that I saw potentially more value in. Honestly, I should have just held those shares. Despite, I thought eventually the offerings would somewhat catch up where it would kind of slow down the move. Although, right, ARK Invest just keeps on, they keep on buying it, right? So they like it. They're going to keep buying it. Seems like that's going to keep sending it up. We'll talk about CCIV in a sec. SCAC, let's take a look at SCAC. This thing is pushing up. This thing has, and there's also, I believe there's some more due diligence behind SCAC as well. It's got some room. It's got some recovery room. So SCAC, my first area, I would say the next area I would look for is $2. This spike right here. After 225, from there, every 25 cents will probably be some areas of resistance. So 2 and then 225 would be some of the spots I would be looking at for SCAC. It's looking like it's making a beautiful bounce off a bottom, and then off the 50 SMA roughly is where it just bounced again. Let's take a look at this bad boy. This one has some, this is also a solid play. This would be one of those, if I do, it probably won't take you too long, do a little bit of due diligence into, but this is the type of chart, right, that, you're down here, okay, it hit 5, yeah, it's at 10, so it's already up 100% from the absolute bottom, but this is one of those that sub $10, buy this bad boy up, and then, you're looking for targets of 15 plus. Ideally, I would like to see it break above the 1687 to 17 for a move towards like $20. I would probably have targets up there. This chart just screams like 15 to $20 to me. Longer term, slower mover, but you can probably get that. I don't know enough about the company behind the scenes. So again, that aside, right? This chart screams it. So you do a little diligence and you feel comfortable doing so. This is a beautiful play. I think it's a solid long-term swing. HEXO is also, they just did a recent reverse stock split. This is another one of those cannabis plays. Recent reverse stock split, kind of missed it in my opinion because I missed the 50 SMA bounce. Beautiful. I love that. If you guys watch my videos, I talk about that a lot. I love that bounce. The 50 SMA, 50 periods, some moving average. I mean, I love it. And it's pushing up. Now wait for this. I would be personally waiting for the sector to cool back off a little bit, and then before we get news of any bills getting kind of pushed, before any of that stuff comes up, that's when you want to start buying and averaging in. Because the second there's news, if they're voting on a bill, boom, they're going to go again. They're probably going to go again. So, be careful of that stuff. You don't want to be getting caught buying in too high. Ideally, you want to get a better entry. So that's how I see it. Okay, so CCIV. To those who are jumping in now, we talked about it a little bit, maybe like a half hour ago. This is nuts because the rumor is that they're merging with Lucid Motors, a legitimate electric vehicle company. I believe they have the delivery starting in April. Don't quote me on that, but April is their delivery starting. So they have legit vehicles that they're going to be delivering to people. So a lot of other EV plays, like for example, you guys who know me, at least, I liked FSR back in the day. Now I still like it. It's just a long game, right? FSR doesn't have production until 2022. They're not going to be delivering vehicles until at least 2022, maybe 2023, depending upon delays. Lucid's delivering this year, so it's like a more tangible company that people want to get invested in, but currently they're not public. And so the rumors are that they're going to go public with CCIV. If that happens, I see this thing going 30 plus very easily. If not, this has the potential to be a bigger run. So if you like this, if you're willing to be a little more risky, as I say, right, you're gonna get days where the market sells off, or when there's rumors, or there's bad whatever, or there's manipulation, and the stock's gonna come crashing down hard very quick. It's a very volatile stock, so don't play with a ton of money here. But those who know what they're doing, you could play with a ton of money and make a ton of money on just scalps, which is something that I would personally be looking to do. If I don't end up holding this guy through the announcement of that, hey, they're going to be merging with Lucid, at least I'm taking advantage of some of these dips, which is what I did last week for a few bucks. It was a very small trade. So that's what I like. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see. Oh, also, yeah, so I said, there's questions I missed too. There's videos on the channel. If you go back, there should be some technical analysis videos. There should be some support resistance. I think I might have a playlist with a couple videos in that playlist. I would recommend checking that out if you want to look at some of those. I'm probably making some more technical analysis videos. The only problem, right, which is like a problem that people have, right, is that the videos that get the views have to be titled a certain way. And so I try to, in my videos, do I may have to, I don't want to say clickbait, but to a degree. And then in the video, I try to provide legitimate stuff. I'm not just going to give you guys 5 stocks and not say why, I try to provide technicals. I try to provide, hey, there's a catalyst here, there's this. So hopefully through watching just videos in general, you'll start to get a better sense if you're someone who's brand new and you don't know what technicals are. The live streams, ultimately, I'm hoping that, I have some videos. I'm hoping that I can stack some more, little tidbits here and there just in kind of any video or on a live that I'll share with. And I do that on my weekly Saturday videos as well. I talk about why I like certain stocks, support, resistance. So hopefully, it's just getting you kind of more accustomed to those who are new. Let's see. FIII electric. I do. There's just too many. There's just so many SPACs. I mean, there's so many SPACs. I can't keep up with some of these. Let's see. Litecoin, Bitcoin. Well, yeah, what is Bitcoin up to? Let's take a peek at Bitcoin. What is it doing? I haven't looked at a Bitcoin chart in a little bit. So, oh man, it's gonna go again, because you just can kind of see, right? What does this look like, right? So we have these big moves, these massive moves, but what is it doing right now? Yeah, it's volatile, but we're in a consolidation period right here. So if I'm gonna draw some drawings in here, we roughly have kind of a downtrend right there. We also have roughly put in higher lows building right here. So if I kind of mess up on the exact size of these lines, but roughly speaking, here's our kind of pennant shape, potential breakout, cracking to the upside or downside if it does fall. But I'm bullish on Bitcoin. I think it's going to go 100K maybe this year. I don't know. Could it go more? Maybe. I don't know. Could it go to zero? For all I know, I don't know. I have a decent chunk of Bitcoin that I just kind of have in the back pocket, and I'm just not looking to sell it. That's just it. That's for my, it's at 37,000 roughly. That's just what I'm doing. Though we will see. Let's take a look at PLTR. VIVE was one that I've played a lot in the past. PLTR. Yeah, this thing is, it bounced off this little line right here, or this area right here, and the 50 SMA is coming up. So PLTR is going to have some solid support just below where it's at. So it's got some support. So any dips, I think, should be bought, personally, on PLTR, especially for a long-term position too. Let's take a look at VIV. VIVE, what is it at? Oh, look at this. It just dipped. So maybe there was bad news or there was an offering, whatever there was. But they also just look like they did a reverse stock split. This is a stock that I used to be trading back in the day when it was 60 cents or whatever it was. VIV, let's just take a quick peek, actually. Let's pull up, where is it? Where do I want to go? I want to go to FinViz. Oh, here I am already here. Let's see, VIVE. And for those who don't know, this is finviz.com. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out as well. It's just a quick tool. Look at this. You talk about Vive right here. I don't care what's going on, bad news or not. This float of 2.17 million, interests me right there. Okay, they did an offering, $24 million public offering. Okay, that's why the stock dropped. Let's just dive into it really, really quick. Exercise price of $3.40 per share. So where is the stock sitting at right now? It fell to I got to put on the list. Thanks for whoever mentioned it, because these are the plays that I like in terms of risk reward. Now, ideally, I don't want Vive to just go from here, but what do we have? I would love the best setup I like. VIVE sits right here, around $3, under 325. It just sits here, gets nice and quiet for a couple days, couple weeks. I don't care. I'll park some cash in there, and I'll slowly add in, right? It sits down here, and then boom, we either get a PR, it gets found, it gets pumped, whatever you want to call it, right? The thing makes a quick move to $4. We take our, whatever that is, I don't even know, $3 to $4. We make our money, and we're out, or we at least taking profits off the table. And if it wants to go further, let it go further. You ride some shares, you scale out, boom. But risk reward here, I mean, this is setting up to be a $3 support, with a gap to fill. I think this is going to be a solid play. So I like Vive. I like that. That's on the list now. I mean, that's actually the thing is, I've played it before, and I've made money on Vive in the past. So this is another example of like the trading journal, which, like I said, there should be a video on the channel going over the trading journal, of documenting your trades, what you kind of have in the background, right? And you can play these stocks again because they come up yet again. The score, TSCRF. Oh, media. I love these types of plays. Media and gaming. This is a potential, solid play. Let's take a peek. Let's pull up the site. The score. Oh, actually, I've definitely seen the site too. That's cool. I like this. I mean, it's got the momentum right now. Look at the volume is just pouring in too. Like the volume just continuously keeps going up and up and up. What is this? 3.6 million, and that's not that much. And once this gets found, this could do 10 plus million shares traded in a day, and this thing can move a lot. So I like that play. I mean, ideally, technically speaking, it's not my favorite type of entry, but dips are your friend, right? Let's see. Go back. Oh yeah, SNDL. For those who are, because I know there's always a lot of questions about SNDL, right? Here's your cannabis play. Just quickly, briefly, going over it again. They had a shelf. They filed for a shelf offering, a $400 million shelf offering. That means they can do an offering pretty much whenever they want. Ideally, right? This stock, okay, it fell to 65, or it fell to 60, recovered to 65. I would like to see them do an offering. So I personally am not going to touch it until they do an offering. What they're probably going to do here is they're going to do an offering, and then they're going to do a reverse stock split because they got to get the stock price over $1 by June to meet the NASDAQ requirements, unless they get another extension or whatever it is. So if SNDL comes down into this range, this 45-cent range, I would be interested, depending upon the offering. We'll see what happens. Offering price, does it matter too much? No, but maybe it could have some effect. So we'll see. I'm not going to touch SNDL until they do the offering. So that's just my take. And if they want to just hold that shelf offering in their back pocket and not do it, I'm just going to stay away. There's other plays out there personally that I think you can take advantage of. DSGT. Let's take a peek at this bad boy. Okay, so uptrending, but it had this big run. Okay, it had this big run up towards this area, which is resistance, which makes sense. So we spiked up to 150. That's your resistance. But it came down, and now it's showing us to be this 50 SMA is support. So 75 cents, I don't want to see it go below 75. Okay, see this wick down? Like that's an example of, okay, it could wick down, but it recovers quickly. It's fine. So let's see what happens. But I kind of like that. I mean, we can even draw like a downtrend too. Rough downtrend. Here's your, looks pretty good. If you break out of this downtrend, you probably have a run towards 150 plus. And many times you break out over this top, resistance. So I kind of like that play. I touched on CCIV. Personally, right now, it's just what it is it's just, it's a speculative play. I like it on ridiculous dips. So if they have some ridiculous, like, fake out or scare or freak out dip, then there you go. Personally, it's just a risky play. If they merge with Lucid Motors, awesome. The thing is going 30 plus. If they say that they're not, then it can come back down. You know what I mean? ATOS. Let's pull this bad boy up. I personally would love dips on ATOS. I stuck to kind of how I traded ATOS or how I played it. So I played it twice. There's more here though. For those who are looking at ATOS, I mean, technically speaking, yeah, there was already like 40% upside from where it bottomed out. So you kind of missed out on 40% potentially, which is how I see it. But that said, if we get further dips, there's a decent there is a lot behind the scenes with ATOS too, which is where you go to the site, you look up quickly, right? You go to their pipeline, and you can start to read through. They have a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, right? So there's more here to ATOS, which is kind of, personally why I do like, I like it in the first place. Didn't happen to get a PR on any of those things while I was in it personally, but I still made my 40%. So I take my profits and I'll look for dips. That's how I do it. But if those who are in, I think you're just fine. ATOS, so we can probably put in an uptrend line if you wanted to as well. I mean, you're looking fine. If it does dip down to like $1, it's a decent dip buy, and I'm looking to potentially get in on that. ADTX. Let's take a look at ADTX. They still haven't gotten the approval. I mean, it's just kind of like one of those things where it just takes so long, but they, are slowly grinding their way back on up. So ATOS down to, or ADTX, sorry, under 225 is a decent spot in my opinion. So that's what I want to see. Let's see. This 260 is a resistance for right now. So that's your area. 260, we break above that. This could get going. Let's see. Cells. CELZ. Let's see this guy. Okay, I don't know enough about this guy, but I mean, it's sitting here. It's got some support. It's building right around 2 cents. So if you like that, if you like these type of plays, I don't personally play these OTC plays myself, but that's that. ATNF. I'm going to go to my positions. I'll pull up ATNF really quick. I like it. I love ATNF under this, $3 ideally would be the beautiful spot to be, buying. I personally am waiting to buy more. I would love to have gotten more. I just didn't get enough of it on my first attempt, because the way that I do it, like I always kind of recommend, is I buy in chunks. I never buy, something all at once. Unless it's like a day trade. If it's going to be a quick scalp trade, then maybe yeah, but I'm going in smaller to begin with. I buy in pieces. So ATNF, I bought my first chunk of 200 shares at 286 or right around there. If this thing dips down to, below my entry, below that level, I'll buy more. And then that's how I average in. I mean, I think this is fine down to even this could go down to 220. And I would be fine. I mean, there's no reason to sell it at 220 unless there's bad news. So we'll see. J&J. I have some options. I have some options on J&J actually still. And this is looking pretty good as long as the market stays elevated. If the market comes down, this could kind of hurt those options because they're timed out to I think February 5th or something, or the 12th, I forget. But it broke out of a massive area of resistance. So this is going to be a play, especially with their potential approval looming of their vaccine. J&J can make a run towards I wouldn't be surprised 175. And that's a fairly even $200. That's a big move for J&J based on the prior history of the stock. If this thing makes a run to 200, that's a big move from where it's at. So 175 would be more realistic for a potential move. Let's see. TRIT, T-R-I-T. Oh, what is going on with this guy? I don't even. What is going on with this chart? What is this? A tech company, fintech? I don't even know. I don't even know. Was it a SPAC? Maybe it must have been a SPAC, right? So, I mean, it's down at this point where it came to down here. If this chart is wacky, though. This is crazy. So, below 770, this thing could keep coming down. So, personally, I wouldn't want to see it make a new low relative to the 770 it made back on the 17th of December. So I see it. It's kind of a crazy chart, maybe a scalper's dream, but it's just a lot. Maybe it's kind of crazy. BUSXF. I think, EV bus company could be huge. EV bus companies, a lot of these EV companies, there's a bunch. This is going to be. I'm excited to see how this EV craze kind of ends up. Right? Do these these stocks have been going crazy. This is one of those, right? Dips are your friend. So it came this 50 SMA. This blue line is holding support. So if it comes back down, or this line, of course, is going to come up. As time moves on, this is going to come up. So if it comes down and meets that line, that could be a really good dip buy opportunity. But right now it has like 220 or 230 support. Resistance up towards 3. Breakout over 3 could send it again to the next move. For the next move. CLWD. Cloud Commerce. Hard drop. So eventually this is going to settle and develop some kind of support. So that's where I would see if once it starts consolidating and you can start to see the candles kind of chill out and they're not as volatile, maybe it kind of develops support down around, I don't know, maybe right here, this 10 cents. It holds up around this 9 to 11 cent area and it kind of consolidates in that range. That could be a better play. A lot of these OTC plays, I'm just not accustomed to the same type of mental risk reward, or my risk management. I'm not going to be the same as something else that I usually play. Let's see. The lucid deal for CCIV is going to be nuts if it happens. I can only just imagine the hype on Twitter that you're going to see. Oh, our Rocket. Let's take a look at RKT. Rocket is a super slow mover, unfortunately. It's not a very, popular play, but it's still in a good spot. I like it. It's just sitting right here. Sub 20 is a decent entry in my opinion. It's just coming in. It's just chilling, nothing, hey, whatever, we're just hanging out type of thing. And so eventually, maybe I would like to see this thing make a move. Here's your kind of some of these lines. I mean, it's not perfect, but if I draw something roughly, I gotta just somewhat discount that, but it's like, okay, it's somewhat wedging a little bit, maybe. Is it kind of a far-fetched idea? Maybe. We'll see. TTCF, Tattooed Chef. Oh, this got close on Thursday. I didn't even realize. I have a decent chunk of Tattooed. Actually, I don't think I have enough. I bought Tattooed Chef back in here, and I'm just going to kind of ride what I have. But Tattooed Chef has just been a nice little grinder the past couple of weeks. Support down to 23, resistance up around 28. So that's your kind of range. It's going to be in this range until it cracks one of those directions. I, believe it'll go to the north side of 28, but that's just me. So, JagX, probably not a big fan from what I've been seeing. Yeah, maybe it's consolidating. Maybe there's a play here, but I mean, this is one of those plays that's up too much lately. But that said, doesn't mean that we can't play it, right? So again, we kind of have some support roughly, a little bit I can draw like a line, but when I draw this line, it's relative, right? So we can wick below, we can, it's not perfect, but we have support around $3, roughly down 275 to $3 to 315. Could be a good support. If it dropped below 275, not a huge fan. It has a lot of room down. It's just the way that I see it. Appreciate that. Appreciate all the kind words in the chat. Zom, man. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be like okay, well, it doesn't look chart wise. It is somewhat still uptrend. Higher lows. We're putting in higher lows, right? So still until we get a lower low here on the daily chart, Zom still may have some legs. The only problem is that I just remember trading Zom, and maybe it's not good that I kind of have these past bad in memory. Not that I have bad memories, but I traded Zom. Go back here. I traded Zom back in the spring, when Zom would do these moves where it would do an offering, okay, and then it would drop to like 10 cents or whatever it was, 10 to 15 cents, and then it would recover like 100% post offering, and then it would do another one, and it would do the same thing. And the problem was that when I was watching Zom back then, I was like, not the problem, but I was like, okay, this is cool. They have a product coming up, Trueforma, we're still talking about that today. The launch is in March. And I remember playing it like, hey, the product launch is like 10 months away. Cool. It's something to play. It's something to play in the future. And then I never did. And I thought maybe as we get closer to March, and it kind of got too much attention, earlier. Because a lot of these stocks under this $1 range, these pennies, the penny poppers, whatever you want to call them, they've been popping. They have been popping for sure. So Zom's, technically speaking, looks good. I mean, I see so much downside risk here. It's not even funny. That's why I'm not going to play it I'm not going to play it in general. But if it had a big dip, maybe it gets me interested for a scalp. But, that's just me. I understand that their launch could be huge, but It just up way too much lately. You know, that's just my style though. Everyone's gonna have their own style. CTRM, similar, same thing. CTRM, I don't even know. Like, I'm sorry for those who like CTRM, but I have yet to have someone tell me what they see in CTRM. Like, I'm not trying to be the bear of that one, but I have yet to have someone like actually give me like reasonable like reasons why they like CTRM. Someone was saying I got some comment on one of my videos saying like there's no reason for penny stocks to go up. You just buy them and they go up. I'm like, dude, like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know, whatever. It's just like, maybe it was a joke. I mean, it probably was, to be honest. But I'm sure that there's people, right, who followed someone who says this stock's going to go up. You know, maybe they talk about a product launch or they don't say anything and they believe them. And then they just think the stock goes up, and lately these stocks have been going up because this is just like the market's on fire. But that's what today's video, if you guys haven't seen the video that I posted earlier today, go watch that video. Because I think it's like at some point, like I said, the music's gonna stop and you're building horrible habits. If you don't know what you're doing, you're building horrible habits by just following somebody and buying blindly, not having any sense of any technicals, having any sense of doing any due diligence, nothing. If you got nothing and you're just buying because the stocks go up, the music's going to stop. We're either going to go into a bear market or we're going to get to the summer market where penny stocks are just trash. I mean, I'll show you guys. We'll look at IPOE in a second. Look at ZOM. Okay. ZOM, right? I played it, right? So this is a perfect example of the music stopping. So this is one of those plays, right? They do an offering. See these gaps down? They do an offering, right? And the stock recovers like 100%. Okay. Guess what happened come July? The music stopped. And what did ZOM do? It just went on a perpetual downtrend from like 20 cents to 6 cents. And if you're holding this guy just praying, right? Obviously, you know, if you're still holding it now, you're fine. But, you know, at some point, you know, you're going to have your mind, you're not going to sleep at night. You're going to be crying. You're going to be this and that, and you're going to cut it for a loss. And so at some point, right, the strategy doesn't work. And this goes for anything. So as long as you build proper habits and you have some sense of risk reward and you have some sense of what's going on behind the scenes in the company for reasons to why it goes up, why it could come down, you're going to be you'll be okay. But if you don't, then you're gonna screw. I'm telling you, you're gonna screw yourself at some point. It happens. Everybody, this market's been nuts, and I'm glad a lot of people are making a ton of money. But I just don't want those people to lose all that money. You know, you know, if you've done well, then let's make sure we keep that money in the account, or take it out, or you know, pay off debt, whatever. IPOE, the merger with SoFi, pretty big. I was just kind of thinking, it was actually like a random shower thought kind of the other day. The merger with SoFi here, I mean, that's pretty cool. SoFi is a pretty big company. I don't really know enough about their financials and their numbers. But that said, I'm potentially worried about the government repaying or paying or canceling student loans. I don't know if that would be a big deal, but I know that SoFi, a decent chunk, is refinancing student loans, is a chunk of their model. So what happens if we see even just a $10,000 like repayment from the government? Does that affect SoFi? I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but I was just thinking to myself, maybe that's something worth, you know, thinking a little bit more about, you know, on SoFi. But I do, you know, that's a pretty big name, right, that you're getting for. Everyone knows they have ads all the time on TV, on YouTube. Like their ads are everywhere. Everybody knows SoFi. Same as like Rocket Mortgage, which I'm surprised Rocket Mortgage isn't higher. I guess it's just like kind of a boring kind of stock. It's not an EV stock, so it's just chilling. Maybe. I don't know. Oh, NVIV. I am currently out of NVIV, but the volume on Friday, you know, is intriguing. So. The reason why I'm out, because I played it, I had a pretty low average in the 60s, and I played it up and down. I scalped it plenty of times, and now we're at the point for me where NVIV made a big enough move. There's certainly more here. Could this go a lot higher? Yes, but I'm gonna wait for dips for me to grab this thing again. I'll play it on dips, but for right now, I'm not in it. There's more behind this. If you do some digging, some due diligence, there's a lot more. But you know. For me, I rode this thing up from, you know, almost like 100%, right? And from the mid 60s to, you know, it's at 110. I think I sold my last shares at 103 or 107. So I rode up, you know, a 50+% play with scalps in between. I didn't have a huge position size, but I made a few bucks for sure. SoFi is Chamath. Yeah, he's a big name for all of these SPACs too. Don't be that guy riding Zom down to 6. A lot of positions, they're a great average price, up very great, but a lot of them I would like to buy more and trade. Let me see. But always worried about my average. See, that's one of those things too. I don't, I understand your average, but at the same time, if you still believe that, like, for perfect example, NVIV, right? I had an average at 65 cents. Would it have been awesome to be like, yeah, man, I had an average at 65 cents, and it's over $1, a few weeks later. That looks cool, but at the same time, if you're seeing opportunities for dip buys that are gonna still bring your average up, but you have the cash, or for example, like me, right? In the past couple of weeks, my account's been growing pretty quickly, and so in doing that, right, what I do is I size up, and so I'm a technical base, so I trade percentages. So the max position size is 10% of my account, and so as my overall account size grows, my position sizing needs to scale up. And so NVIV, when I initially took that trade, my account was significantly smaller than where it's at now. Not significant, but it was smaller than where it's at now. And so what did I do? Well, we had these. Look at these dips. Like, look at some of these dips where it was down 5-10%. That's where I bought, and I averaged up, and then I would sell. Small. Let's say I have a core size of 1,000 shares of NVIV, right? And NVIV makes a big run one day, and it goes up, for example, here on the 30th of December, and it goes to 87 cents, right? Maybe I'm in from 65. Maybe I'm like, okay, that's a lot. I'm going to take off like 300 shares, right? Now my account's going up. I'm making money on other trades. Blah, blah. Okay, the next day, the stock dips down to 73. That's where I say, okay, I'm going to hammer this. Boom. Now I buy back, 600 shares. So I actually, am increasing my position a little bit. But now, right, I don't, the average is not as big of a deal. As long as I'm watching and I'm monitoring the trade, if it's an uptrending stock and you still believe in it to kind of stair step its way up, or you're noticing a pattern, that's where I say, then yes. For most of my swing trades that I do, I love to average down, or I love to buy the dips. So I get in, for example, like ATNF. Let me pull this guy up. ATNF. I'm not gonna buy. I would love to buy more ATNF. Honestly, if it starts breaking out, I would love to have more. But ideally, on this one, I'm gonna probably ride what I have in the meantime. But I'll buy dips down to 2. If it comes down sub 275, I'm gonna be buying those dips and lower my average. That's how I traditionally do it. But you can do it the other way. Average up when the momentum's there. One more example is like CRBP. Is like this one has been pushing up. So this one pulled back on Friday and it dipped down to like this 160. And what did I do? I bought that dip. I actually sold some of my shares up in here, I think the day before, in the after hours. The next day it dips, market comes down. This thing down like 5%, 10%, whatever it was, which is like an overreaction. So I bought that dip. So I bought back some of the shares that I had sold the day before. I bought back. Ultimately, it increased my average, but at the end of the day, it was still relatively a decent dip in my opinion. And so I'm still anticipating selling this guy for more. So that's what you do. At least that's how I do it. GEVO, I think GEVO could be a decent longer term play. I mean, short term, this thing may come down to like $6. It could come down even more, maybe towards 5. Worst case, I wouldn't want to see it go below 5. But if it breaks, this little mini downtrend, it's a rough area that we kind of have right here. But if it breaks over that, we can get a nice push, a push up to the upside. LOGI, Logitech. This has been a solid play. This looks like it's modeling the market, right? Roughly, with doing better than the overall market, obviously, but it's roughly modeling the market. So this is one where you'll see. On down days in the market, you'll get good dip buys, and on up days, usually it will probably outperform. So, an example, right? The market was down like 1% last week on Friday, and this guy, LOGI, was down 2.79%, right? So, when you see that, what is it telling you, right? These stocks, these big time growth stocks that have been pushing up crazy numbers, they're going to have more weakness on the red days, but they're going to have more green on the green days. So, I think these red days are your friend, especially, let's take a peek really quick and then we'll probably start wrapping things up. We've been going for over like an hour, almost an hour and a half. The market looks green. I mean, everything looks solid. I mean, up about 0.5% as of right now. So we'll see how that holds up into tomorrow. So, Friday was your dip. Friday was a good dip buy for those who, and that's another thing too. I made a video talking about a hedge that I have, or an options position. GHIV is solid. I think with the merger this week, that could be good. That could be getting enough attention on it. We'll see if we get some price target upgrades. That's what I want to see. I ultimately want to see stocks like a lot of these new SPACs, once they merge, give it some time. COLV, same thing. All it takes is one or two, coverage, analyst coverage, a price target upgrade, boom, that gets enough attention, and then the thing goes. So that's why I think it's fine. GHIV will get there. They have they're doing some crazy. It's like that's a massive company. GHIV is actually a massive company. One of the I think if not the largest like SPAC deal there is, right, out there. So we'll see what happens. But like I was saying, with the hedge, that the hedge is just there in my back pocket so that I can go about what I do normally, right? If I potentially see weakness in the overall market, then I have the hedge. Okay, I'm not going to lose as much money. Ultimately, I'm still buying dips, selling rips. I mean, that's just kind of the nature of how I do it. Buying. It sounds simple, but it's somewhat technically, and there's more of a strategy behind that. So, hopefully that's that. AMC, mega short squeeze coming for AMC. I mean, here's why people are talking about AMC for the short squeeze. Let's pull it up. Because 36.5% of the float is short. So there's a lot of shorts in there, and eventually those shorts got to cover. The stock gets enough attention, the stock starts pushing up. They got to cover because they got to cut losses somewhere, because technically, right, whether it makes sense or not, right, theaters, maybe the AMC is going down. It's not going to be around much longer, but it doesn't matter, because if the price action's telling you otherwise, AMC breaks over 325, they got to cover. They're going to get margin calls. They're going to have no choice but to cover. And what is that going to do? That's only going to add to the buying volume. When you cover, you got to buy back those shares, right? If you were previously short, you got to buy those shares back, and then boom, the thing can keep going. So this has some potential. I think AMC, especially how it played last week on Friday, with the overall market being where it was, being down, AMC being up 6.8%. The market's up tomorrow. If it is, if this holds overnight, AMC could be a wild ride tomorrow. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. MVIS, yes, I think it's going to squeeze as well. Let's take a peek at this one. I remember I missed this one because I was looking at it down in here and I missed it. But it actually is not a terrible spot. MVIS is probably going to go 10. On the squeeze, because there was a short report. The company came back, I think, and said, "Hey, no, they backed themselves up." There's a lot of shorts. Let's pull up MVIS's FinViz really quick as well. Let's see. Not a huge. It's 13. At least it's saying 13, but still over 10% is decent. MVIS is going to probably squeeze as well. I would not be surprised. So that's my take. GHIV market cap 658 mil. Okay. I'm going to wrap things up. So ultimately, right, we'll see what happens this coming week. It should be a fun week. As of right now, things are looking green. Let's take a peek at SPY. SPY was red, on Friday, but we'll see how it looks like it wants to open up green. So we'll see. It should be an interesting week. Hopefully you guys got something out of the live. If you did, please make sure to leave a like on the live on the way out. Check out today's video from earlier. I think it's actually super helpful because the space is getting kind of crazy, and it's fine. There's a lot of great information. There's a lot of great channels, a lot of great videos, great ideas being tossed around in live streams and videos and chats. But there's also the dark side, not the dark side, but there's the other side that I want to make sure people are aware of, especially people who are beginners. If you're not sure and you're buying stock because somebody told you to buy a stock, is that the best idea? That's why for me, I trade. I trade technically based. I have my risk management in place. I talk about stocks that I like to talk about ideas, whether I'm in it or I'm not. I talk about good ideas. And hopefully I give you guys some good stuff to go off of, and ideally become your own trader, because that's what you want to do. You want to be able to be out on the mountain. You want to be on the beach, with knowing you got your stuff under control. You don't want to be on the beach in the Discord group, or on the beach or on the mountain, whatever you do in your free time. You don't want to be doing that and watching Twitter for somebody to tell you to buy. No, you want to be doing it yourself. That's the goal. That's the idea. You can do it yourself. You open up a whole new door of freedom. to the game. So I appreciate you guys, for watching. I'm so glad the streams are awesome. Again, this is Monday night, so usually it's on Sunday. So usually the market's open Monday. If the market's open Monday, we'll do Sunday nights. So Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central is where I am. Live streams about an hour and a half. So wrapping things up. I appreciate you guys so much. Please make sure to leave a like on the way out. I appreciate all of you. Any links for any platforms and resources that I use myself are in the description box and down below. And I will see you guys in tomorrow's video. Peace.